Good morning. Happy Saturday. We're setting up for a fun Money in the Morning. We're having fun in a few different ways. Hey, kids. Hey, kids. Today, the mug of the day today is from this fantastic place in Hot Springs, Arkansas. By the way, if you haven't been to Hot Springs and Hot Springs National Park, you don't know what you're missing. But while you're in Hot Springs, you have to go to a place that even locals here don't know, and that is Garvin Gardens. Fantastic, fantastic place. And so this is my flower pot Garvin Gardens mug. And by the way, this is a neat trick. So Garvin Gardens does this reciprocal thing where you buy a annual membership to Garvin Gardens, and they and you can get admission to other similar places. I'll get back to that, Kimberly, in just a second. So you get similar places, and the Dallas Arboretum is a fantastic place to go. It's a wonderful place to go. And the thing that's interesting is that an annual membership to Garvin Gardens is half an annual membership to the Dallas Arboretum. And so we go to both. So we purchase Garvin Gardens annual membership, use it at the Arboretum. We've also gone, where did we go? We were in Monterey and went to the awesome aquarium there and asked them. We said, hey, we got this Garvin Gardens annual membership. I'm like, I doubt it. Where is it at? Hot Springs, Arkansas? I don't think so. And I remember the woman types it in. Sure enough, reciprocal relationship, got in there free. So support stuff local and get back to you. Daryl's just having a hard Saturday, Kimberly. Having a difficult time getting those eyes to open correctly. All right, I got to grab something. I'll be right back. We have a few minutes of hangout time because my iPad that runs our sound is completely dead. So rather than it's just about there. But anyway, rather than stopping and starting, we'll just hang out for a little bit. But anyway, Garvin Gardens, fantastic garden place. Why are we here on a Saturday, Jay? What the hell are we doing? What are we doing? So, let me tell you this, Kimberly. So my kids got me this in honor of Father's Day weekend. My kids got me this, and in honor of The Incredibles coming out again. I like hockey. I never wear this thing. I can't imagine ever wearing this in public. So why don't I wear it on the most public thing that I do? But this is my Mr. Incredible hockey jersey, and it says Incredible on the back. So I've had this forever. The new movie came out. So yeah, check out that. Huh? Cool. It says Incredible, #1 on the back. And I thought, got to put this on for our special Saturday Money in the Morning. The reason we're doing this actually, Jay, is that starting on Wednesday of next week, I'm going to be in Kansas City, looking at the place where we're going to do our live show in the fall. That's cool. But B, hanging out with my daughter for her birthday. So Cheryl and I are flying out. Jennifer's here. It's about time, Jennifer. Where have you been? So we've got some cool definitions when this thing finally powers up. We've got some cool definitions today on the show that we'll go over. You guys have any big weekend plans? We are going to a wine tasting charity thingy dingy tonight, which should be fun. That's my day, and working on a few things. Working on a secret project I can't talk about today, and I'm working on the books for Stacking Benjamins. That's not exciting, but sitting here with music and coffee and looking at numbers is always fun. And then I also have to get these 3 theaters finished. The Detroit place where we're having our show there has really been slow. And on the other side, Kansas City and Orlando are begging for stuff so they can start selling tickets. They want to get tickets open, and I don't want to open tickets until I get all 3 cities at one time. I really don't want to ditch this location in Detroit because they work with so many other cool things. I don't know why it's taking so long to get the Detroit spot up and running. So I'll be pushing that guy's button today as well. Also, I have to finalize where we're going to be in Philly. So that's my day. Isn't that exciting? Wait for this to come. Here it is. All right. Test our sound. I got nothing. I can't hear a thing. There we go. All right. For those of you who have never done the live recording, this is kind of the way it goes. We spend a lot of time. You're getting some great TV, and then finally we roll through it. And that's coming here in just a couple minutes. I have to find the second headline. It's the first headline. These are 2 crazy headlines today. All right. And then got one more thing, kids. I know today's especially fascinating. All right. I think we finally got it. So nobody's going to share their weekend plans. It's not dressing up in a Mr. Incredibles jersey. It's like the best plan. Okay. It's time to go. This is going to be for next Wednesday. You've heard this story before, I'm sure you have. A woman's killed by a drunk driver. The family sues for millions. And even though you know that this is a huge tragedy, you think to yourself, millions? Really? Millions and millions of dollars. How do they calculate that? Why so much money? We hear about lawsuits. People talk about lawsuits getting out of hand. And yet, there's some serious math that these people are applying. How does that math work? We're going to talk about that on today's show. Plus, where do you do your best financial planning? What if one article said at the buffet? I'd say probably, yum, all those choices, and yet so little retirement. Isn't that sad? Live from my mom's half-finished basement. It's Money in the Morning. Hey, Stackers. I'm Joe Salci. Hi, Average Joe Money on Twitter. And we got a big day. Big day because I'm in my Mr. Incredibles jersey. I wear this one time a year to celebrate Father's Day. Thanks to my kids for giving it to me. Oh, boy. That is so funny. That was good, wasn't it? That was a nice run through. That is awesome. This is what I love about doing these things live. I wasn't recording. I love that I'm all fired up. I'm ready to go. I look down and the little standby button is blinking, waiting for me to press it. All right. This take 2 is Wednesday. Oh my God. A woman's killed by a drunk driver, and the family files a wrongful death lawsuit. You've heard the story before, haven't you? Sure you have. You've heard it thousands of times. And often these lawsuits are $3, $4, $5 million. And even though the death is a tragedy, the one thing I hear people say all the time is, why so much money? How do the court systems are going crazy? And yet, what if I told you there's some very serious math being applied in all of these cases? Let's talk about that math today, shall we? Plus, where do you do your best financial planning? What if we said, and One Piece does say, it's at the buffet? Financial planning at the buffet? Yum. All these choices and still very little retirement for people, huh? Live from my mom's half-finished basement. It's Money in the Morning. Hey, Stackers. I'm Joe Salci. Hi, Average Joe Money on Twitter. And every Monday through Friday on this show, we take 2 headlines from the financial press, sometimes not from the financial press, just from the press in general. We talk about the definitions. We talk about what this has to do with your wallet. And then at the end of the show, we take the 2 headlines, we pop them together, and we give you a big idea that you can take home with you. How does it work? Well, you're here, so stick around and listen. Today's podcast brought to you by M1 Finance. That's M, the number 1 finance. If you're not familiar with M1 Finance, head to StackyBenjamins.com/M1 Finance, and I'll bet that you never leave, because you can do everything from pressing the easy button with something that looks, smells, and feels like a robo-advisor on one end to do it yourself on the other. Best part, it's all free. How does it work? Head to StackyBenjamins.com/M, the number 1 finance, and you'll find out. And as Mom says, you'll tell them we sent you. All right, you got places to go. I've got coffee to drink. So let's get this party started, shall we?
Here come two headlines ripped from the financial press, only at Money in the Morning.
Thank you there, Laura. Our first headline comes to us from Yahoo Lifestyle and is written by Hope Schreiber. Man gets justice after his girlfriend created a fake email to turn down his scholarship. Listen to this. Since the age of 7, Eric Abramovitz has studied some of Canada's most prestigious clarinet teachers. He took first prize at the Canadian music competition 6 times and performed as a soloist with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra and the Orchestre Symphonique de Quebec. However, his pitch-perfect career was thrown off track. In 2013, Abramovitz applied to complete his bachelor's degree at the Coburn Conservatory of Music in Los Angeles. That sounds awesome, doesn't it? Yehuda Gilad, a professor at the school, accepts 2 students a year. 2. And he can afford to be picky. He's considered one of the greatest, I'm sure, clarinet teachers in the world. On top of that, every student who's accepted into Coburn receives a full scholarship, which includes tuition, room and board, and money for meals and other expenses. That's a great deal, huh? A scholarship at the school is worth about $50,000 a year. According to the Montreal Gazette, being chosen for this scholarship is far more than a foot in the door. It virtually guarantees becoming a well-paid symphony musician straight out of school. And of course, Abramovitz cleared all the hurdles to get there. After finally making it through the pre-screening process, he flew to LA in February 2014 to perform a live audition. He was accepted, yet the plot thickens. And this, kids, is where the story gets interesting. Abramovitz didn't receive his acceptance email. Another student at McGill, the school he was attending, did. That student was Jennifer Lee, his serious girlfriend of 5 months. She sent Coburn an email pretending to be Abramovitz, turning down the scholarship. Then she sent a fake email to Abramovitz pretending to be Gilad, saying he'd not been offered the scholarship. Writing as Gilad, she offered a scholarship of $5,000 a year to study at the University of Southern California. Tuition at USC is $51,000, which Lee knew Abramovitz couldn't afford and would have to turn down. According to Montreal Gazette, Lee did the deception so that Abramovitz wouldn't transfer away from her. He finished his degree at McGill. This is a girlfriend who just wants her boyfriend to stay in town, so she makes sure he doesn't get in with one of the best clarinet teachers on earth. Wow. So after working on a 2-year certificate program at USC where he studied under Gilad, after graduating, let me put the emphasis where it should be here, kids. He worked on a 2-year certificate program at USC where he studied under Gilad part-time. Abramovitz learned of the deception 2 years later and sued Lee for $300,000. On Wednesday, Ontario, Canada Superior Court Judge David Corbett ruled in his favor, adding $50,000 more to the award. The judge said, quote, "I cannot speculate as to how high or how quickly Mr. Abramovitz's career might have soared, but for the interference by Miss Lee. But the law does recognize that the loss of a chance is a real and compensatable loss." Gilad testified Abramovitz won a number of competitions during his time in LA and secured a position in the Santa Barbara Orchestra 2 years later than he would have if he'd had the scholarship, missing out on 2 years of potential salary. Wow. What a wild story, isn't it? It's just horrible. Guy misses out on this huge opportunity just because girlfriend doesn't want him to leave town. And he sues for $300,000. It's funny because you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Joe, sad story. Kimberly, hanging out with us on Facebook, says that was such a sad article. Poor guy. It is sad. And yet you might be thinking, what does that have to do with my money, Joe? There are some concepts that you learn right away when you talk about finance. Some of those concepts like rate of return, pretty easy. What's a mutual fund? Maybe not as easy for some people. I remember that even took me a little while. How does the stock market work? That's tough. Why is it not voodoo? Why do we think stocks should go up at an 8% rate of return over longer periods of time? Real estate, right? The value of a house going up. Like we kind of get that because it's in front of us. But how does the real estate market work? That's a tough one. That one takes a while. One of the toughest for me is in the area of risk management. I always understood one concept in risk management, which is called, it's so funny. I just forgot the name. It's when you take all of the lowest common denominator stuff, like what would happen. It's called a capital needs analysis. Wow. There it is. Tough. You can tell I haven't had that much coffee. I said I needed to get coffee. I've only had a couple sips today. So I got to get moving. Capital needs analysis works like this. You have all of these things in your life. Like what would happen if somebody in your life passed away? Let's say that you've got 2 children and you pass away. Well, you might want to put them through school. You might want your spouse to have some money for burial expenses at least. You may have some bills you got to pay down, whatever it might be. You have some of those expenses. And then you also worked, right? So you got to kind of replicate that paycheck. A lot of those numbers are called a capital needs analysis. And the frustrating part that I had with the capital needs analysis was a lot of those numbers blow in the wind because you don't know really what will happen. You don't know when you'll die. You don't know what your survivors will do. So you just try to set it up and say, what do they need? And I'll cover that. I got that. Like I understand that very easily. But there's also another point, which is called human life analysis. And what is your human life value? And this one took me a while, but this lawsuit is all about human life value. If somebody gets killed in a wrongful death lawsuit, say a drunk driver, and the family sues the drunk driver, they sometimes sue for millions of dollars. And the reason is it's all based on that person's human life value. How much money would they have made had they continued to work? And this, you see this all the time too with disability, right? I had a client who was riding his motorcycle, and a woman who was, I think, 94 years old and frankly probably shouldn't have been driving, just ran a stop sign, ran into him, T-boned him. He lost the use of his legs. He actually had one leg amputated. The other one had a really hard time walking on. And so a lot of his judgment was based on human life value, being able to get to work, being able to do the things that he could no longer do. How much money did he lose? And then they take that and they calculate it over the person the rest of their career. And that's how you come up with a $3 million number. I mean, if somebody's making $120,000 a year, $1 million, if you use the 4% rule, is a $40,000 a year lifestyle. So $3 million is $120,000. So a $3 million lawsuit equals $120,000 a year. And now they replicate that income. That's where they come up with these huge numbers. So when I was helping people with their financial plan, we wouldn't just look at a capital needs analysis. So what are all these things? Because you never know what people think. And the bad news is you have to remember, if you're the one creating life insurance for yourself, you're dead. Like I would always ask a couple, let's say I'd ask the husband, you pass away, what do you want? What would happen? That's what I started in my career. Later on, I would say, okay, let's talk about what would happen if Bill passes away. And Bill starts spouting off. Bill immediately says, well, this would happen, this would happen, this would happen. I go, Bill, fantastic. I need to talk to Betty because you're dead. Doesn't matter what you think. Betty, let's talk to you. What do you think would happen? The good news is I get a better answer. The bad news is Betty and I both know we don't know what would happen. So capital needs analysis was on one side. On the other side, we'd also calculate Bill's human life value. And that would give us what I called the field goal, right? If you're a fan of American football, we're right in the middle of the World Cup. So a lot of people talking football. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one with goalposts. You've got capital needs analysis with numbers blowing in the wind on one end. And then you got this really big, huge number on the other. And then we talk about your own life and your own risk tolerance. Because if you don't mind taking a lot of risk, let's buy as little life insurance as possible. By the way, you might not need any, right? If the capital needs analysis is a number you can handle without life insurance, you don't have to buy a thing. But on the other hand, some people are pretty conservative. And I was surprised sometimes because I'm a fairly aggressive guy, but I would have clients that would say, no. I want to be close to that human life number. I really want to be. I'm like, you realize you're going to be buying a lot of life insurance doing that because you only have X amount of assets. Yeah, I understand that. This is money we could use for other things. No, I get that. It's part of why I learned that a lot of the time when you think strongly about something like I do, other people think differently. So I had to put my feelings in the back seat and be a good advisor for my client. How do you feel about where you want to be? And that, I guess, is our question from this headline. what's your human life value? Number one. And number two is, have you calculated any of these numbers? Like looked at them? You can go, our sponsor on Stacky Benjamins is Haven Life. And if you go to stackybenjamins.com/Haven Life, use our link to tell them that you heard about it here. You can just use their calculator because they have what we refer. They're the only place I've ever seen the field goal, which is part of why I asked them to sponsor that show. All right. That is our first headline. How neat is that, huh? Human life value. Took me forever to wrap my head around that. So I hope that we tackled that pretty well and actually made it a little fun because I find that fascinating. Another thing I find fascinating about that, just as a side comment, when it comes immediately to how much money the person would have made that had the wrongful death lawsuit. So woman gets hit by a drunk driver. Her attorney makes a huge case about how her career was taking off and she was going to do great things and it was going to be phenomenal what she would have done, because he wants that human life number to be really good, right? He wants it to be this huge number. But then there's a multiplier that the attorney also knows is coming. So the attorney knows the person has to be great at their job. And they were on this career trajectory. They were going to do all these great things. They were going to get tons of raises. This is how much money they would have made. I think the person was probably going to be making $500,000 a year in about 5 years, just to make that award amount as big as possible, right? But then once they say that that's agreed to, then they have to decide how big that pot of money is that they award right now. What's funny is that's a multiplier based on the interest rate they think that they're going to be able to receive. And now the tables are turned. Now the attorney for the woman says that this woman was a complete dumbass. She can't understand anything about investments. She puts all of her money just in a savings account. She buries her money in the backyard because she can't understand a thing. And of course, the attorney doesn't believe that. Why is he trying to do that? Because he gets a much bigger number. If he presents the person as a savvy investor and they're going to get an 8% rate of return, the present value of your human life money you would have made is a much smaller ball than if it's at 2%. So it's pretty funny watching the two sides go. When they're talking about her career trajectory, one side said, no, she wasn't going anywhere. The other side said, oh, she was brilliant. She's going to have a great career. Then when they start talking about the money, the two sides flip-flop. One says she's incredibly astute, knows everything, stocks, bonds, investing. And the other side says, nope, she can't find her way out of a paper bag. So pretty fun. Hey, let's say a big hello to our friends on Facebook. We're having fun today on Facebook. We're recording at a time we normally don't. And because it's Father's Day weekend, I'm actually wearing something I wear one time a year in honor of the brand new Incredibles jersey, but also Father's Day weekend. I'm wearing my Mr. Incredibles jersey. And my kids got it for me. So I wear it once a year, Father's Day weekend. Today's the day. I'm not wearing it out of the house. I'm very brave, but I'm not. I'll wear it in front of a bunch of people that I will probably never see in public, but I won't wear it around my friends. What does that say about me? I don't have any idea. Kimberly asks a question. Kimberly says, what's the value of a stay-at-home parent? Just curious. Well, it's interesting. What we look at, Kimberly, is how much money would that stay-at-home parent or would the family have to pay to get the same amount of care for the family? So we go over not just the, whatever schooling is happening at home, whatever cleaning is happening at home, whatever all these numbers are. And of course, this family would have had a fantastic lifestyle at home, would have paid that person a ton of money if they had paid somebody to do that job instead of the stay-at-home parent. So that's how they do that. When we would calculate life insurance numbers, we'd figure out how much money that would cost if that person passed away. And by the way, Kimberly makes a good point. That's why stay-at-home parents need life insurance too. I would have tons of clients that would say, no, my spouse stays at home, so we don't need insurance on them. Okay, what are you going to do? Who's going to be at home with the kids if you're working? And you're probably working even more if your spouse has passed away, right? I mean, I don't know. I've seen plenty of people bury themselves in their work. So interesting. Kimberly's here. Jennifer's here. Hey, Jennifer. Jay is here with us today. Daryl's here. Got a nice little crowd here. And if you want to hang out with us anytime we're doing this, we show up at different times a day. Just head to facebook.com/iStackBenjamins is our Facebook page. And that's where we do these in front of a live studio audience. And we don't edit anything out, which you've already seen today. I couldn't remember what a capital needs analysis was. And I realize that's on the tip of everybody's tongue, right? All the time. Let's move on to our second headline, which comes to us from The Onion. And I'm high-fiving myself because I got to put The Onion in our headlines. And I'm actually doing it for a serious reason. And for those of you that don't know The Onion is a very funny paper that's not serious at all. Started off as a paper, and then I believe in Chicago, and then from newspaper, then now is online. If you go to theonion.com, you'll see what's presented as very serious news that's just flipping hilarious. And this one, by the way, Gregory in our closed Facebook group, The Basement, head to stackybenjamins.com/basement to get the link to join our closed Facebook group. What a fun little community that is. But Gregory presented this, and I thought this is perfect to talk about. Does it say who wrote this? I have no idea because it's presented like it's a real thing. Study finds Americans do most financial planning when figuring out how to get their money's worth at the buffet. That is so me. I go to the buffet. I'm not dealing with those salads. I know what you're trying to do with that cheap bread. You're trying to fill me up. No, I am finding the most expensive dishes and I'm going for those, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's read. Washington, shedding light on how the nation managed its wealth. A study released Thursday by the Pew Research Center revealed that Americans conduct the vast majority of their financial planning when figuring out how to get their money's worth at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Quote, our data shows that Americans devote the greatest amount of attention to allocating their resources when determining how much value they can wring from the offerings at their local hometown buffet or Golden Corral, said lead researcher Michelle Keene, noting that more than half the study's participants indicated they'd head immediately for big ticket items like the roast beef, ham, or fried chicken, while approximately 30% opted to arrive just as breakfast transitioned to lunch in an effort to enjoy two meals at once. Quote, whether individuals concoct a plan to refrain from eating anything too heavy several hours before arriving or only order water so as to avoid the empty calories of a soda, the average American shows an unprecedented level of foresight and long-term thinking while heaping their plate with the most expensive meat and seafood. Keen caution that the research did uncover anomalies, noting that the vast majority of Americans abandon any notion of stretching their dollar upon encountering a steaming hot tray of fresh waffle fries. It's gone, by the way. For me, are you kidding me? Fresh waffle fries for the win. That's good. Love that piece. Thanks to Gregory for sharing that with us. And Jamie hanging out with us on Facebook. Hey, Jamie. Jamie says, crab legs and shrimp. Absolutely. You got to head for the crab legs and shrimp. I mean, that's where the serious money resides, right? I absolutely love this piece. And it's funny because when it comes to my favorite humor, a lot of humor is funny because it's so darned accurate, isn't it? We put so much work into financial planning when it really doesn't matter. And yet when it does matter, we don't really think twice about it. There was a study done recently, actually a serious study, not this Onion piece, that said that people spend more time planning a family trip than they do planning their retirement. And I'll tell you, in my experience, that seems true. Like, I didn't go test the data, but in my experience, when I was working with people, I would ask them some pretty simple questions and they'd never ask those questions. Well, we've had, even on our Friday roundtables over on the Stacky Benjamin show, I remember Len Penzo a couple of weeks ago saying, that's a good question, Joe. I never thought about it. Like, what do you actually want to do after you finish working? That's a great question. I haven't thought about it. So I asked the honeybee the other day. That's what he said. Len's a smart guy, super smart, way smarter than I will ever be, manages his money very well, engineer, knows his stuff, never asked himself, what am I actually going to do with my time during my retirement years? It's interesting how funny this is, but in all seriousness, our takeaway from this is invest time where it matters. Invest in those things that actually matter. And that kind of preludes where we're going next. Coming up next, Stackers, we've got our big idea where we take these two headlines that seem to have nothing to do with each other. Human life value, guy suing his ex-girlfriend and winning, and the buffet. We're going to take those two and we're going to make a big idea. But first, got to talk a little bit more about M1 Finance, my favorite place to go manage money. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/M1 Finance. What you'll find is that Brian Barnes and company at M1 Finance have created something that you're not going to find anywhere else. People are amazed when they hear about robo-advisors. I think robo-advisors kind of lock you in, kind of locked into your only thing. What if I want to get out? What if I want to do something different? If I'm at no name robo-advisor and I want to manage my money differently, I can't do like I did at TD Ameritrade and something wasn't working. I go do something else. I'm kind of stuck in their portfolios. Instead of M1 Finance, I can build my own portfolios. I've got many different portfolios to choose from. Many of them look, smell, taste a lot like robo-advisors. So you can start off on one end, having your money automatically managed for you in a responsible manner, which is hooked up to modern portfolio theory. Won't get into that, but let's say in an appropriate way on one end, to on the other end, being as irresponsible as you want by putting all your money in penny stocks. If you decide that's what you want to do, it's all M1 Finance. stackingbenjamins.com/M1 Finance tells them that we sent you. And by the way, for Money in the Morning, they send us a little thank you if you go and open up an account and invest money there. So thanks to everybody who's done that for helping the show as well. All right. Big takeaway here. And before we get to that, I want to go back to our friends on Facebook. Mitchell's here, and he says in college we used to go to a Chinese buffet and get kicked out often after spending 4+ hours studying and eating. Remember that comedian Mitchell, Jonathan Panett? Jonathan Panett talking about how he'd go to the buffet and the owner would be flipping the sign from open to close when they saw him coming. Like, no, we're closed. Anybody else can come in, not you. You can't come in. No. And Jamie says, I put so much effort into getting the best price and 2-ply toilet paper. I should be looking at my IRA allocation. We don't think about that. And let's actually jump into that further, Jamie, because this is a big part of our big idea today. On one hand, we talked about a gentleman suing his girlfriend, and we turned that into a lesson about human life value. You have all this money that you're going to make in the rest of your career, right? And that money is a real amount that we can put numbers to. We can figure out how much money that is, and lawsuits get paid based on those numbers. So if you think about lawsuits being paid based on those, we do have this trajectory that we're on if we just continue doing what we're doing. And if we increase that rate at what seems like just a little bit, we can actually over our lifetime make that a lot more money. Little consequences, little actions, big consequences. On the other hand, we have an article from The Onion, first time we've ever done an Onion piece, about our best planning being at the buffet. And while it's a comedy piece, this comedy is way based in truth because people spend a lot of time planning little stuff. How do I get the crab and shrimp to make sure I get my money's worth? Yet when it comes to making that move that's going to actually put more money in our pocket permanently, we do nothing. We do so little. And that's, I think, the big idea for today. We're all trying to save money. If you're listening to Money in the Morning or hanging out with us here today on Facebook, we're all trying to save money. But I think it's really about time. Because what this gentleman lost when he had to sue his girlfriend, he lost time. And time is this thing that you can't get back. And if you're struggling at one end, trying to pay down a little credit card, and you find that you can't do it, a lot of the time it's about finding out your why, right? Simon Sinek talks about start with your why and then work from there. Once you find out what your why is, from that point forward, it gets a lot easier. People find they can't lose weight. You haven't found your why. You just think, yeah, okay, I'm going to this one event. I want to lose weight for that. Well, one event, losing a little weight versus the candy bar right now or whatever it might be. I mean, I don't know. I'm always trying to lose weight. But the point is, you have to find that bigger why. I want to be around for my kids. I just want to last longer. I want to see the world, whatever it might be. I've got these things that I want to do. Once we find that why and then we start working there. That why then builds in these little actions that we can take today to get the small things done, like the credit card bill that we're not looking at, or to Jamie's point, not looking at the IRA allocation, which Jamie and I both know takes 15 minutes to look at, right? But we don't do that. But we make that one little move, and then that move is correct, and it puts us on a little bit faster trajectory, which later on gives us much, much bigger results. And it saves us a lot of time that we can spend doing the big stuff instead of sweating the small stuff. That's the big idea today. Had a fantastic time today. Guys, go stack some Benjamins. We'll see you next time back here at Money in the Morning.
Money in the Morning is created by Joe Saul-Sehy and is brought to our channels by our producer and engineer, Richie Rutter-Reese. Stacking Benjamins and Money in the Morning are for entertainment purposes. Before making moves, consult with your financial advisor. Looking for training sessions? Kathleen Selimans has a great suite of Stacking Benjamins tools, so head on over to learn.stackingbenjamins.com. Hoping to chat with us on the web? Say hello to Shannon Cowan, our social media guru and community manager in our Facebook group. She can be found at stackingbenjamins.com/basement. From the basement, I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. See you tomorrow.
All right, we did it. That was fun for a Saturday morning. We usually don't do this, so thanks for hanging out today, guys. Small fun group. That was great. I love being able to talk about human life value too. That concept, I think, can be so important for people to understand when they grasp not just risk management, life insurance, but also, why these numbers for these lawsuits are so big. And then you start figuring out that they're really not that big. When you do the 4% rule, $2 million doesn't last as long as people think it. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to try, hand me an extra 2 million, kids. And I'll add that to my stack and give it a shot. But $2 million is an $80,000 a year lifestyle. So it's crazy. All right. I get to go do the next activity. Time to dive into my budget. We'll see you guys later.